'Tis the season for colds. La, 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 la. Let's try again.
You are listening to Freshly Squeezed.
I've probably got about 30 notes in my phone, just full of like 2-3 lines and then a load of words that rhyme. Could be late. I've probably got about 3 albums worth of songs there.
Headphones in, volume up. We're about to give another squeeze to some brilliant new music on this week's podcast. I'm Jim. This is Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast, and as is the mission of this show, I'm hoping that over the next few minutes I can introduce you to a load of new artists that maybe you've not heard before, who could become your next favourite band. 3 to go out on this week's lineup, including some uplifting and hopeful indie from Manchester's Pomona Park. Named after a little bit of land between Manchester and Salford, that lot, and it's a name that I always associate with being really cold and windswept on the tram stop that sits there, which is weird because their music doesn't associate with that emotion at all, as you'll find out in a bit. We're also going to check in with a band that were recent contenders for Germany's Eurovision entry, and the story is as random as it sounds. The Great Leslie. They are great, and they've got loads of news to share too. But first, we're going to start off with a band based in Manchester, but with roots further afield, Marouli. Before we chat to Graham from the band, I want you to hear a little bit of their brand new tune, Don't Wanna Dance.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Step out of work into bed. I feel my senses shutting down. Try to tell me what I need instead. Giving in to the god of sin. Not alone, rather than fight. Pay me in, ply me with gin. But I don't wanna dance tonight.
Cool that, isn't it? Let's get under the skin of that tune and the band Marouli in general by chatting to Graham McCusker. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yes, how's yourself?
Very good. So, those who might be not familiar with this current project might know you from your previous involvement with Band of Skulls doing keys and backing vocals there. When I heard that, I instantly assumed that your music was going to be of a certain style. And this music certainly is not of that certain style. Is that something you enjoy? Kind of that maybe slight element of surprise when people discover you from Band of Skulls and then find you kind of doing this?
Yeah, totally. I think it's really fun to kind of cross genres. And at the end of the day, for me, it's all kind of dots and beats and, you know, and rhythms and harmony and you're just all creating something special. But it does always take everyone by surprise, not going to lie, because we do use distortion sometimes. I can definitely vouch for that, but not as much as Band of Skulls, not as much as Russ does. That's one of his favourite pedals, shall we say.
So Don't Wanna Dance is the single we're featuring on Freshly Squeezed. It's the latest single from the new album Tall Tales from a Distant Uncle Volume 2, which is, maybe not that shockingly, the follow-up to Tall Tales from a Distant Uncle, which was Volume 1, although it wasn't titled that at the time.
It wasn't.
Are these two albums a pair? Are they a continuation, despite the fact there's 2 years between them? Do you kind of see them as part of the same project?
Yeah, absolutely. It might end up being that there might be, you know, like kind of Led Zeppelin, stuff like that, and they all kind of did that. And I guess that from a lyrical stance and from a kind of a journey and storytelling stance, it's they are all little snippets within each other, all the little songs. So it's not necessarily a concept album, but I guess it builds itself into a concept album because they're all little journeys within one album that all kind of like mean something to me, I suppose.
I know you've got album number 3 already in the works.
Yeah.
Pretty much ready to go.
Yeah.
Is that going to be Volume 3?
Do you know what? That is still to be determined, to be honest. I actually don't even know that answer.
You mentioned the kind of storytelling aspect that each of the songs on this album is almost like a little vignette in itself. Where does that come from? Is that something to do with kind of your Celtic roots and the heritage there?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it does have a little nod towards Billy Connolly's beautiful way of telling stories without so many F words in it. Um, but there's that element that a lot of the lyrics have been kind of collaborative, not all of them, but a large amount of them with fellow people from Scotland or Paisley that have little stories to tell. And I kind of grew up obviously playing in bands and since I was like, I don't know, what was a 9 or 10 or since I started playing in my first band, Mull Historical Society. Yeah, the lyrics are kind of collaborative, I suppose, with a lot of friends, and then I take them on a journey and set music to them, I suppose. Not so much an Elton John style, but kind of.
Do you find it much more comfortable telling other people's stories than you do maybe telling your own story and making the songs autobiographical?
Yeah, I guess I find that because the people that I've collaborated with, the lyrics with, we are really good from close friends. There's a lot of relatable elements within them that I can relate to my own life, and they can relate to theirs, and it kind of it works in that way, and I guess it conjures up that kind of emotive sense, which I guess everyone wants to feel in a song. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a mix of both. So I definitely associate a lot of these songs to what I'm going through or have gone through or whatever. But I also like to try and leave it to the listeners. I don't try, that old Beatles story, like I'm a walrus. Like why was that written? All those kind of famous stories of like they just wrote nonsense words, so then nobody could actually find a meaning behind it. There's an element that I try to capture that so people can kind of find their own relationship to the song.
In terms of your story, you wrote this album over a period of time where you were overcoming cancer for the second time. I'm interested at how that impacts your work as an artist, because I'm imagining it could go one of two ways. It could be quite freeing in one sense that you're kind of like, it doesn't matter what I do, I just need to do what feels right. But on the other side of it, I imagine there's a part of your brain that kind of starts thinking about legacy and what you leave behind and could form some kind of overthinking. Does it go in one of those two directions for you?
Yeah, to be honest, it goes in a bit of both. And I guess this second bout of cancer that I've had, not to get too dark too soon, but it's been a lot harder to overcome, if I'm honest. Like the radiotherapy for this one's been really fatiguing. And sometimes you just kind of think, fuck it, and just pack it all in, and you just kind of think, what's the point? But then again, that's one of the wondrous things about, without sounding cliche, is music does give you or gives me a lease of energy, a lease of life when I sit down and actually get into it, and find the groove, as it were. But I guess there's a silver lining to it all. I guess I probably wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't go through the first bout in 2016. This would never have happened, this project at all, without that. So there's some positives, and there's also like I can't be bothered. But yeah, no, it keeps me alive in a weird way.
Let's go back to the new tune and the album itself, which feels like from what I've heard, a real mishmash of influences. It's very funky, it's Bowie-esque at times, references to Steely Dan and Gregory Porter, and loads going on in it. So I think this next bit's going to be interesting. So I'd like to invite you to step into my Mind HMV, if you'd be so kind. So I've not been in it for a while, might be a little bit dusty. Door's a little bit stiff, but in we go. So this is my Mind HMV. Sherlock Holmes has a Mind Palace where he stores all his crime stuff and information. I have a Mind HMV where I categorise all the music I've ever heard, and I'd like you to do the honours of popping your brand new single on the shelves of this store. So first off, we need to find a category to put it in. You can see there's everything and anything here. There's acid jazz, there's jazz flute, there's acid flute. All you need to do is think of the category in which you want your music to appear in, and the category will appear, and we can stick Don't Want to Dance in that area. So where are we heading?
I think let's stick it in something quite relative to alternative indie jazz. Is that even a genre?
It is now, it's over there. Alternative indie jazz, we'll bang it up there. Very broad, but I think this next bit's going to be slightly more tricky because we need to pop it on a shelf. We don't do it alphabetically, we do it by influence. So we need to put this tune between two other tunes, and only two other tunes, specific records. Where are we going to sit it?
Where does Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic sit? Shit, that's not a modern thing. Gosh, Every little thing she does is magic, and 50 ways to leave your lover, something like that.
Nice. And kind of retro as well. We'll pop it there. That's where Don't Wanna Dance can go. We'll put it there in a moment, but first we're going to stick it on the house record player and give it a spin. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was surprising at first. It took me a minute or so to kind of get my head around it, but once I was in, I was fully invested. So yeah, really enjoying it. And Graham, thank you very much for popping into Freshly Squeezed.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. Cheers. Thank you.
I don't wanna dance tonight. I don't
That's Marouli. Link in the bio if you want to hear more from them. But now, think of some famous Leslies. Phillips, Crowther, Ash. None quite as great as the great Leslie. And Ollie and Ryan, neither of whom are actual Leslies, are on the podcast. How you doing, lads?
Good, how you doing, man?
Very good. So last time we chatted, I'm trying to remember when it was. It was probably 6 or so months ago. And when we spoke, I quizzed you on some of the most famous Leslies. We played a little kind of quiz, and I think from memory you did really badly at it. So I'm not going to do that again. But I wanted.
I can't have been on that one. That's why.
Are you the Leslie expert in the band?
Only if it's about Leslie Nielsen. Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting because I wanted to do this. I thought every time I checked in with you, I wanted to find out who your favourite Leslie was at that particular moment, because I think it's an interesting gauge of where you are mentally and creativity. So who is right now the greatest Leslie?
Well, obviously us, because we're the great Leslie.
Yeah.
But if we have to talk about other people, for me, I don't know about Ollie or the rest of the band. I'm pretty sure Fred would agree with me, though, that Leslie Nielsen is pretty up there. I know he's dead now, but a lot of our internal sort of comedy between us is based around his kind of comedy. So like the Airplane era and, just saying ridiculous things all the time.
Yeah, Naked Gun as well.
I've got to ask how you feel about the new Naked Gun film that's coming out then.
Have you watched it?
I've not seen it yet.
I went in, realizing that I probably wouldn't like it, but I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. Fred watched it before me, and he warned me that he thought it slowed down at the end. But I have to say I quite enjoyed it all the way through. I have to say I didn't think it was as bad as I was expecting. Maybe I'd set the bar so that I was impressed by the end, but I did actually find it funny, and it definitely did have the same ring as the originals, and they sort of played on the fact that many of the actors were dead and stuff. So it's definitely worth a watch.
That's good to hear, although I'm not as bad as I was thinking it was going to be on the poster. I'm not sure they're backing that one up.
But they do play on it in the film as well, actually. But it's like a remake, so.
Well, we should probably talk about music, particularly the brand new tune Under Your Skin, which is out now, and it comes hot on the heels of an appearance on Germany's Eurovision competition. So this was the competition to find Germany's entry for the main Eurovision, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did that come about?
Well, I think it's something he always jokes about, especially when Fred joined the band. It was something like, oh, it wouldn't be great to do Eurovision. It's literally, you play one song, you're in front of, millions and millions of people. It's the easiest gig ever. So that was the joke. And then I don't know what it was, but I think Fred said to me one day early last year, was like, should I apply for the German one? And I was like, yeah, if you have the application. Basically, Fred is German. That's why we have the link. In the UK, you don't have that opportunity. You have to be basically with a label. You have to have the backing. You have to have money. That's what it's all about. Okay. But like in Germany and I think in Italy, a lot of countries in Europe still do the competitions that I think we used to do in the UK, where it would be very much an X Factor-esque show, and they'd pick from that. Yeah, we just seem to be lucky at every stage.
Wow. So how does it go? I'm assuming are you going to be Germany's Eurovision entry this year?
Well, this year was in May, so it's already passed, yeah.
Okay.
But we came 5th in the Germany pre-selection out of 3,000, so we did pretty good. What can we say, Ollie, about next year?
It would be great to do it again. There's loads of people that want us to do it again. We would like to do it again, but the thing is, we got down to the last 5, like Ryan was saying, and then it fell at the public vote because we're not that German. So it's a bit like, should we wait and build up our following a bit in Germany and Europe and then do it again? So I think we're still trying to make the decision. It would be great either way because it was a fantastic experience, but it does also take a month out of your time, and we all work. We're not a full-time band yet, unfortunately, just because that's just how it is. So there's loads of considerations, but we love to do it again.
Amazingly, amongst that chaos, being able to find time to write a new tune and prepare for a new album as well. Under Your Skin is a brand new tune we're playing on Freshly Squeezed, and that is going to feature on the debut album, which is coming next year. Is this tune a bit of a flag in the ground? Is this a sign of what's to come on that album?
Definitely, isn't it? I think it is. This is the first time that we have a single recorded and produced at Abbey Road. And you can definitely hear that in the track. It just sounds so much better. It's also the first track that Uda, our bass player, is on with us. She joined in November last year, so just before we were going to Germany. For me, personally, I just feel this is sort of the moment where we're really concreting ourselves and our foundational sound is all there.
How was that Abbey Road experience? Because obviously it's an iconic recording studio. I'm sure it makes a difference in terms of the kit they've got there and the facilities they have. That's one side of it. But what about as a band stepping into a place with that kind of musical history? Does that make a difference?
Yeah, it's magical. It's a magical place. In fact, we did this, you might know, Jim, but we did this live album there a couple of years ago. We were just extremely lucky, and it just fell in our lap that we could do that. But we actually wrote most of, I think it was the End and the Beginning EP. We had basically had Abbey Road Room 2, which is the room where the Beatles used, for 2 days. And the first day we recorded an album and filmed it. And the second day we just basically used Room 2 as a practice room. And we pretty much wrote the whole of that EP in a few hours on that day. And we all put it down to it being the magic of that room, really. And the vibe it gives off, the whole aura of being there. It's just an incredible place.
It feels slightly like it's a bit of our place now. I don't feel uncomfortable going there. I feel very comfortable, and which was nice, I think, when we first went as well. But I think there was nerves, because there's a weight of expectation when you go into a room like that.
Yeah, my imagine it could be very easily overwhelming to kind of have, like, seeing that kit and hearing the history must, I can imagine it being a lot.
Yeah, but it's like Ryan says, it's a really special place, and I think it inspires you to do the best work you've ever done, and it's just, I think it really helps us going there, even though it is by far and away one of the most expensive places you could go. Yeah. But if you want to, we were like, it's our debut album. We've got to give everything we possibly can, emotionally and physically and financially, every single thing we got to do to make this the best work and best music we've ever written. So that's what we're doing.
Ahead of chatting to you, I went back and listened to some of your earlier tracks, kind of span back to 2021. And I've got to say, tracks like See You Again and That's All Right, there is a definite musical shift in terms of where you are now with this single and where you were then. It feels like you've kind of maybe dialed down the alt indie pop thing and maybe dialed up the theatrical rock slightly. What is it that's promoted that development in your music? Has there been kind of a moment or decision, or have you just kind of gradually crept in that direction?
I think it's just a natural change, isn't it? I mean, without wanting to go through like past players, but we've had different people in the band that were never quite the right fit. Like, the band starts out me and Ryan, and it's been a kind of a progression to find the right people. And we found Fred, and we're like, Fred is the guy. He's our guitarist. And the same thing happened with Uda last year. And I think when you find the right people, that's when you find your ultimate sound, because it fits, everything fits, and it all works. And I think we take the best things from what we did before, and we've just elevated it and progressed. Now we're in a position where we feel like we're starting to break through in the industry, and we're starting to find ourselves as a band properly, and people are really buying into it. So I think that's kind of where we've gone, and it's, like I said, it's just been a natural progression.
Well, I'm really enjoying the new stuff, and I'm fascinated by some of the comparisons that are made as well. Like, I've heard you compared to Duran Duran and The Darkness. I think I'd chuck maybe kind of early Maroon 5 into that mix
yeah.
as well. I think there's that
I'll
kind
take
of
that.
musical comparison. It's definitely in there. But I'm also a sucker for a woohoo in a song, so instantly hooks by Under Your Skin. So cheers for coming on Freshly Squeezed, lads. Really looking forward to the debut album when it comes next year, and lovely to catch up.
Thanks so much, Jim.
I wanna get under your skin like a deadly injection, so I can plague your brain, and then I'll be all you're thinking, turn those thoughts into feelings, and do it all again. I see your look as the bottom line. Touch my name and then you're mine. We entwine. Let me hear to know you're near. Let me be clear. I wanna get under your skin like a deadly injection, so I can plague your brain, and then I'll be all you're thinking, turn those thoughts into feelings, and do it all again.
Big tune that, and we need that band on stage at Eurovision in the future. But it's time to wrap up this episode of Freshly Squeezed with the band Pomona Park, talking about new music, and Chris and James have joined me. Welcome, boys.
Thank you very much.
Nice to be here.
So, new single, Lifeline, just a few days old at the moment. What does this period of time feel like when you've spent a load of time making a tune and it's finally in the world? I'm sure you're buzzing to have it released and have it out there, and you've had this big build up. But is there a moment immediately after something's put into the world where you're kind of like, oh, what's next? Or are you able to enjoy it?
I think there's an element of like you kind of just looking around and seeing, who's listening to you and on Spotify for artists, and seeing, kind of comparing it to previous releases, really. I'd probably say for me. And then, there's an element after that, what comes next? Because I think the industry now, especially for up-and-coming bands, is all about momentum. So you've got to kind of string a few things together to actually achieve something, really.
Does it feel very relentless? Because, as you say, it's very different to how maybe it was 20 years ago, where it would be you have a set of releases, you might have an album, and then you kind of get this 2-year period. You have to kind of have this always-on mentality.
Yeah, I'd say so, 100%. Especially when you're kind of trying to balance work and, we've all got other duties, we've got mortgages to pay and all this. It's like, it sounds really negative, really, talking like this, because it's a privilege to do like art and music, but
it's a graft at the same time, isn't it? It is hard work.
Yeah, it's a graft. And I think as well, from my perspective, creatively, it's quite difficult to find yourself in a headspace where you can write. So it's I tend to write songs in stages where I'll write 3 or 4, and then I could go like say a month or 2 without even picking up a guitar. But it's just the way life is, isn't it? Stuff gets in the way.
Are you able to kind of carve out time where you go, this is my creative period? Because with most hobbies, whatever it is, be it like say paddle, for example, like that, you go, right, I'm going to play paddle at this time. But creatively, that's very difficult, isn't it? To then go, right, I'm going to Thursday, 8 o'clock in the evening, I'm going to write a new song.
Yeah, that's really difficult for me anyway. You can't really make an appointment with creativity. When I'm busy, when I'm in work, when I'm even driving the car, I'll have like a lyric will come to my head or something, and I'll think, oh, that's quite cool, that. So I'll pull over and I'll write it in my notes. And then if it's something I'm really excited about and I've got time, I'll go home, pick up the guitar and start working on it. If I have time, I'll do it, but I've probably got about 30 notes in my phone, just full of like 2-3 lines and then a load of words that rhyme that could relate. I've probably got about 3 albums worth of songs that I've just not spent time finishing.
So the new tune Lifeline, recorded in the same session, I think, as the last single, which was called Do Not Disturb. When you do that, when you kind of have a number of tunes that come out of one session, do you find they occupy similar spaces?
It's always an interesting one when you do a few at the same time. While 2 come out of it, we normally go in with sort of, 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 demos. And it's sometimes shocking or surprising to us, which becomes our favorite afterwards and which one we decide to do first. So but I think when we went in, we were originally thinking of maybe releasing these in the other order, but we've ended up going this way. So it's really interesting how it all comes together in those in that week. You can definitely tell when they're in pairs, the sort of influences that we have at the time, the sort of similar sounds and the similar kind of things that we're going for.
I think it's definitely within the kind of sound we expect from Pomona Park. It's that slice of pure indie pop that you've kind of become known for. And you describe yourselves quite often, and I've seen this quoted in interviews a lot as well, as being full of youthful optimism. Is it hard to keep that in your music? Because we are constantly told that the youth of today have very little to be optimistic about. There's very little to be optimistic about in the world. So do you have to kind of really fight to keep that bright sound in your music?
It's an interesting one from us because that came from somebody describing us like that, and we just thought it fit really well. I think musically it's easier than it is lyrically to keep that, because it's the message of the song can be slightly different from like what the kind of music that we want to play in it. So from our point of view, it's sort of whatever we're listening to at the time can kind of like bleed into that. But I think lyrically, there's different topics that get touched on, and that's mainly like Chris is writing these songs, so it's sort of like a question for him about like how that makes him feel as he's writing these songs.
Well, it would have been trouble, Chris, if you hadn't been optimistic with the topic of this song, because it's about meeting your now wife. So I'm sure there would have been some discussions had you not been optimistic in the writing.
Yeah, I think there's been discussions before, to be fair, when I've wrote songs, because I don't always write from my point of view either, or write from, people have experienced, or my friends, things they've experienced and stuff. So she's asked me questions a few times, like, what's this about? And I'm like, it's not you, don't worry. We're fine.
Does it feel strange in the case of this song to kind of have that moment captured musically? Because this is something that will always be there and always be with you as you go through your life and you go through your relationship. Have you considered how it's going to age with you?
Probably not, to be honest. No, I think I kind of do stuff in the moment. And James will probably tell you, but when I write a song I'm really, really happy with, it goes in our group chat instantly. And then everyone fires back their opinions on it. And this was one of them. I think I probably wrote it in about 10 minutes. And then obviously it gets refined and everything in the studio. But I think sometimes I'll just do stuff on instinct and then not think about the consequences after.
Yeah, I think some of the better stuff that we've done has come out of that kind of like spontaneity, the songs that Chris writes in sort of 10 minutes. And when we all get together and as soon as we've set up our instruments, just that first take of all just playing our ideas and things gel, like generally when you're just kind of like feeling those things out, the better kind of parts of songs seem to come out.
How honest is that level of feedback that comes in the group chat, James? How often do you end up writing your response and then going, no, actually, I'll delete that. I'll taper that a little bit.
We're actually very lucky. Chris is a very good songwriter, and so like we don't have a lot of criticisms because we're very happy to have that foundation. I think the process is very much, like Chris will write a demo and send it to us, and we'll kind of play our parts and maybe send something back, and then we'll all get in the studio. But I think it's something that we've learned to have a good kind of like back and forth on. I think the first few times in the studio, 3 or 4 years ago now, I think we were all kind of cagey about how much we can input on each other's parts. But the last time when we were in a few months ago, it was very much sort of everybody on everybody's part, and it made the whole session like flow a lot easier. And I think we've got much better songs because of it. So it's just spending more time together, writing more together, and the more times we do it, the more comfortable we get.
Well, Lifeline's the brand new tune. It is out now. The links are, as always, in the podcast bio. But Pomona Park, cheers for coming on Freshly Squeezed.
Cheers, Jim. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Pass over money with a shaky hand. Sat on the bus trying to understand. Can't even think of what you've got planned for me. Sat in your bedroom with your music on. Tried on 10 outfits, can't decide on one. You could wear anything and I'd be stunned again. Piccadilly at the night time, not a place you always feel fine. But with you there I'm alright. When
And that's a wrap. 3 bloody good bands on this week's show and 3 bloody good new tunes as well. I don't know why I sound surprised. That's what we do every week. And if you're not following this podcast, you are missing out. So make sure you get that done. If you want to find out more from any of the bands featured on this week's episode, then click the links in the podcast description. It'll take you direct to their Spotify pages. If you don't use Spotify, I don't know, Google it or something. I'm not your mum. You can work this stuff out for yourself. But as always, get in touch if you have any musical tips, and I will catch you on the next one. Cheers for your ears.
Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast, was devised, produced and hosted by Jim Salveson. Sound design and additional production by Ant McKinley. Theme music, Blue Blazer, is written and produced by Spin Class. Stop.